RAFSIPILIBRO @AOL.com.
You said you don't want to be on the email.
I just. Also, we're doing 5 minutes prep, right?
That's good.
Okay. You said it.
Sorry, I had like a billion windows open, and I didn't want to close all of them individually, so I just quit out of Word.
Once when I do that, it gets mad at me and opens up all my documents again.
That has happened to me before. It just keeps opening them up.
Yeah,
It's like,
my documents I haven't opened for like a couple of days.
that's happened to me before as well. This time it did not. We got lucky.
My favorite is when like you open a document and then it just like it opens like 50 other things and then it doesn't even close any of them. It's just like
Really is. Yeah.
Part 1 is framework, standpoint, epistemology. Is it best starting point for moral decision? Other methods, exclusive viewpoints, makes true analysis of reality impossible. Mills 5, theorizing takes place in the notion of dominated by experience of the equal to the rise result of the hegemony, idealization of concepts of pure commercial reality as well as concepts for potential mapping of the current identities or actualization or part valorization of the experiences result of the arguments or no view realities of observers should be able to see directly to the end and not thus the political decision must consider the citizens of the abstract concerns the scales consequences one consequence of survival since it does give you always success in our result will make your people only empirical objective since you can validly analyze it for government has been obligations different by active police officers to the rest of civilians adult healthy standards minimizing the material conditions of social inequality and evaluation management policy across social context across situations around broader kind of society and economic terms and individual cost benefit also wasn't flawed technological optimism clever at all 06 hour and brown approximate system elements of civil experience for only for the social progress and conservation just social qualities yet contemporary discourse in setting those social analysis seems to be captive of best represented by the modern energy regime the rest of the disruption plans come in the without state of examination social economic and cultural ecological record of the regime's operation the unfortunate order constructs a democracy facility the abstraction of production and consumption part 2 is the nuclear renaissance we are in the midst of global nuclear renaissance global propaganda markets and nuclear power as the only solution go to climate change or shut down the democratic liberation by alternative energy which was Wasserman 16 that nuclear power my fight change is hybrid rapid to reduce the entire centralized fossil nuclear base resistance is being under my mind drops in fibers from my nuclear is better than most waiting that responding based on power must be short of the fossil burns all environmental systems in the choice or reactors billions reactors battery production distribution of all over the shifting to when it's time to develop government legislation renewable decentralization systems very much decided at the heart of this renaissance state drive to colonize other countries to sustain our nuclear addiction Whitman 11 the nuclear industry and the party on this video, I've been 10 years after this really good comment with your nuclear powers, especially nuclear powers are requiring of this problem of 4 problems of supply. That's what my mind nuclear materials right after French, Canadian, British, Swiss, Japanese, Russian, Chinese, Australian, and mining operations with African countries and nuclear powers justified through emergency agreements, creating nuclear state exception, nuclear dangers of deep gas, people mode, cataclysm, which stems to the warp class analysis, recreates warming, War 11, station for nuclear thing, large scale solution, increasing mental consumer lifestyle, the nuclear lobby of benefits from global warming, nuclear industries, environmental beneficial speech, monopolies, the entire environmental strain of relations, so do with reading on the ecological consequences, restriction, decommissioning, or held and which is how to see Ukraine, who want to monitor the change in the lifestyle, your cheap climate, change of the discourse of empower the inclusive exception in the nuclear state exception, police and all that society provides a model for the care decision making, the privilege, sexuality, experts, and exclude the viewpoints of everyday citizens, legitimate suppression, War 11. No, the social role, the important social role in nuclear energy, the climate constitution, overturning nuclear, the biological mode of government, as capitalism, stability, technical civilization, or science, except for the structure surrounding a critical part in the modern normalization of state exception, and the power systems, the European nuclear, Steve Ballard justified, but it says you're running a permanent crash for a bunch of native source of energy, these supplies, restrictions, places to deal with demonstrators, Jimmy, to the special structures, and let's help you know, go for mass energy, nuclear places, exceptionally hold on to safer access in it, is civilization which increase authoritarian and defense-oriented nuclear power reinforces all levels of sufficient aids, centralized tech trying to get your legitimacy to throughout society across all levels, scientific analysis, Martin at all 80. These social structures favor nuclear power, nuclear capitalism, patriarchy, nuclear power, vice virtual abstraction, essential production of electricity, finance, finance, suitable for global sector, solar, and then online self-control distributors, is the state consequence for communities that are reduction of control of their energy use companies, only doing nuclear power projects with active subsidies and incentives were offered by the US state projects suitable for mobilization or favor to decentralized energy distribution with deliver profit technologies, or controls designed by the force higher control work with nuclear power profits, or a better well, the social role enhanced of elites producing a system where which keeps scientists like social disruption. Research politically, goals picture the major structures, state capitalism, regional enforcement, other state programs, discriminating against zero job construction, the state, corporations, one plus spectrum, relations, service, or nominations with the workforce. And this view of nuclear power is a quick phase equals as the global economy and energy system perpetuating massive inequality, basically to Mars level level production of energy is planned under free market conditions. This point of competitiveness and profitability is a result of growth of existing what is this one is free market legitimize the subsidiary power, the welfare full natural society is not for the end of that country, equals establishment, but it's not taken into account the overall reduction of energy. Therefore, energy production decrease about production power is used to wonderful concepts for the question of energy, other those use financial and material, but also as the effort to reorganize support the advocacy plan tax, all countries have the production of nuclear power, all countries have the produce power for reactors will be facing out power with as well. The only way is the only certain way to eliminate this is based on nuclear power together. Some countries have the less Germany the nuclear but is that go down based on nuclear power. Many unfortunately Germany source 100% power needs from renewables in 2030 and voting affirmative age or see social nuclear power only instrumental form the energy system back in developed body some problems that people often Martin and only for it and objects for a nuclear participation is making centralizing these people they bring back some organized based on environmentally sound technology effective some nuclear and hydrogen gases structures that have viable alternative is because the government is on its own to oppose it. This one can one with this one with the powers of to avoid the structures of the state. Strategy can tell me little practices the non-reforms forming to achieve effective change which away we stop structures the church of more powerful structures and nuclear phase out so solves medium of nuclear power enables a culture shift towards renewables appears to climb 14 aliens research renewable energy systems renewable transition on to renewables is that the economic 2030 red but the environmental language is best faster here and cheaper than nuclear power invest in nuclear pressure local glacial demelting renewables to spread the lowest including those who live more next.
He marked it down, I assume. Yeah. Okay, cool. Ready for cross-ex? So the advocacy, you defend all countries ban nuclear power, right?
Phase out.
Sure. Okay, let's discuss solvency. Nuclear phase out solves. Where has nuclear power ever been effective before? Like in the United States.
What do you mean? Where is nuclear power?
Like nuclear power is like it was phased out in Germany. Where does your Klein 14 evidence indicate that it was actually effective? This phase out.
Effective in
like doing the empirics that show like nuclear power ban worked.
You have to tell me what they worked on.
Got the cultural shift to discuss.
Yeah, Klein 14 makes empirical claims about Germany and Denmark and how their anti-nuclear movements were able to shift.
Okay, point to the line in the card that says that before you marked it. Like the one sentence you read in the card.
So
point to the line that says Germany had.
I think the part of the card I read indicates that there is sort of a.
Point to the line that says that.
So hold on. I think the first part of the card that I read indicates there was a like solvency for the sort of material
Yeah,
problems we
one.
isolate. Hold on, for the sort of material problems we isolate, I didn't get to the culture stuff. I didn't do one error.
Okay, so the app as you read it doesn't have solvency. Great.
No,
Let's
the
discuss
answers I read it has
Sure.
material
the
solvency
framework.
versus
The framework. Evaluation of energy policy requires social context. What does it mean to like minimize material conditions and social inequality? I assume it's consequentialist.
Yep.
Okay, great. Your Martin 84 evidence says that it endorses social critique of nuclear power, but the app is still passed through the state, right?
Yeah.
Like, where do you show why state action is the way of ensuring that cultural shift? Like, how does it spill up if it's coming from like the top?
So I think there's a couple of things. First, the second Martin 11 indicates that sort of stances against nuclear power and what the app sort of engages in are part of a sort of larger critique of state structures.
Sure.
Martin refers to nuclear power as a vulnerable point in the structures of the state.
Okay, sure. So when nuclear power is banned, how is it banned? Like, is it passed by each individual state, or like passed like globally, or I want to know the fiat of the time.
I'll defend whatever you want.
Okay, I will defend a global prohibition.
What do you mean by that?
Like just like the UN says that we should like ban nuclear power.
Okay.
Let's discuss this nuclear renaissance. What is that exactly?
So that's a term used in the literature that sort of refers to the resurgence of nuclear power. So after a number of accidents in the 80s or 70s and 80s, the globe sort of said, all right, maybe chill with nuclear power.
Okay.
But in the last couple of years,
I see the reasons why nuclear power is bad, but I don't see why the app is ameliorating that. Where do you show that plants will actually shut down and not like circumvented, for example? Or that like there would see backlash. Where do you show the app has actually worked in getting rid of this?
So the Klein 14 evidence says that if we were to shut down nuclear power, there has sort of empirically been, or rather like the claim I read was sort of an analytic claim about the ability for shutting down nuclear power to sort of reverse the problems of warming and the problems of like dumping.
I'll start from. Okay, 413. It'll be 3 off on case. On case, it'll be the framework, then just like straight down. Oh, I'll send you. You all want to be on the email chain as well? Yes. Okay.
Sort of well.
Yeah. Okay. Round 4, 1, C. Okay, let me know going on. Here we go. Send. Okay. Evan, you good? So judges are all good? Oh, yeah, sure. Yes, and on case it'll be a framework overview. Just straight down ones. Okay. Everyone's good? Okay, cool.
First off is the sovereignty NC, negating value global justice and getting all people are due. State to interject an obligation to be this part of global institutions. POGI 1. Global justice had assessed institutional arrangements. Individual African countries are advocating the violence on global poor. Next, folks global rate towards fraud, folks inequality among different countries. POGI 2. Human aid design institution would apply the access to human rights to injustice institutional forms as part of their negative duties, not the most unjust institutional schemes on people. Thus, the standard is preserving equal access sovereignty, means certain states cannot self-govern. I intend to demand my sovereignty on people since first, categorically preventing power from states wielding political power who then harm developing state sovereignty, jurisdiction rights. Also, allocated politicians in 12 countries impose the rule of these adopted generations and not in real life that needs of developing countries. Radical activists use the Belt World Standards on Nation Hall and work to survive, actively sign as sustainable in a way that blocks development. Second, developing countries need nuclear sovereignty. The like prohibition or poor countries need power to have a chance of fact-checking rights. Channel ratios. 1.5 billion people use electricity, so almost all of developing countries. Nuclear is reliable and for emerging economies. It also has country independence and every security central political stability nuclear power could allow countries more sovereignty and decision making. Next off is the cap critique. One attempts to switch renewable energy, increase power leads to manipulate markets, increasing capitalism. Their renewable sources leading to decay. Bellamy and Thomas. These vertically more accessible alternative renewables is essential. These projects are could offer back the established precedent which tech companies like renewables, buying location on private industries to develop seeds capital to once again, if used in control of renewable energies would enable producers to mostly fit energy prices or significant rents in the context of the capitalist economy, the turn with solar and water power increasing the poles for the 20th centuries. Second, using the state to combat nuclear power, reduce capitalism patriarchy. Martin, their own author. The place where politics decentralized and replicating the hierarchies found in state bureaucracies, all groups organize themselves, government face distributed accountabilities, groups play a role in civil disobedience as nuclear power groups are an alternative to the stable powers based on violence. The impact of cap is endless volunteer ethical obligation directed possible violence and kills all value of life. Zizek and Dalio 4. Or ethical responsibilities for capitalism and monetization which are subjugated by its neoliberal ideologies of nationalist capitalism. The imposter terrible quality can be angry life choices cannot be calculated, so exclusion is mystified, nameless. The alternative is to allow nuclear production, move it out of the hands of the state coalition workers should control the industry. King 11. The nuclear industry privatized, remember, multinationals nationalized the profit motive routes must place alongside the control workers funded alongside communities that exist beside nuclear plants. They should have resources to use it for their own experts. Third off is the coal disad. The anti-nuclear power policy shift to coal renewables can't keep up. It's a pure favor across multiple countries. Abernathy 15. The IA forecast increased central energy demands of 37 2040 mass renewables, 700 electricity vehicles. We got coal renewables will not take over generation. A full share will remain stable. Otherwise, baseless nuclear power. Furthermore, coal costs large corporations. They control the industry, which is the case worse than social inequities. Edison 15. The fossil economies are reduced reduction in coal. The fossil capitalists work more efficiently. I call it no longer exclusively associated with homes, but as part of a self-sustaining economic growth, captures revenue access profits. The large capitalism is expand what needs to be done to low fossil fuels. The disad turns the case in that ways that all things versus terms of solvency, these industries are huge. The harms towards the action of the corporation are bad, and even say false is bad, which shows they have no shot of actually solving. Second, it outweighs the case of magnitude movement fails to shatter coalitions. Yes, solving cap is important as yes, all the harms that are important. People are going to die in status quo because of coal have no shot of actually solving, which is not unique. Yeah, the case. Place a framework over be first the NC controls the internal link. It's how we ever solve our social exclusion, even if they win the social equality matters, people facing terrible conditions can access that global equality spills over the social realm, which means sovereignty is a precondition I committed to discuss. Second, my center needs to assess the topic definition of the OECD defines country as a nation with its own government. So states can discuss that sovereignty, talk about their justification first. They take you this topic to that abstract philosophical questions. Third, these recognize global equality spills over to a social context. Benedigo 2. Particular identities, nationality, are certain for all power over territory, distinction them and us, who belong to sovereignty, those who do not skip the next card. Now the line by line off Mills Black West standpoint this knowledge comes prior. Well, this goes negative, people are often left out of the conversation, focus on just only on interrelationships. Means global equality, how we ever sure so solve the issues that really spill over to injury, never address the issues that occur in the status quo. Second, the NC is also not ideal. The NC analyzes issues of pressure that the world around us is also an abstract ethical theory, which Mills is directly preempting. Their first justification for global social context key. Well, this is so impact justified, it's not even funny. It only says the nuclear power is important. Well, there's no reason why justice as fixed principle for the NC, since it analyzes why fixed principles justify us solving issues that occur current status for a second goes negative. All social contexts are looking at global issues that occur. People were suffering in terrible conditions. You can analyze that social context. So we're aside the trait now. The contention. Place an opening to the proper first name, no solvency, cross-links was devastating. They only read one solvency card, got through one sentence of it, only says that it's effective in a vacuum, not a reason why prohibition works. They even reason why nuclear power gets reactive effects, the only reasons why nuclear power is bad in a vacuum, and no country evidence either, which means they just ought to actually solve the harms that occur. Second state-based solution failed in bureaucracies, their own author, Martin, 86. One of the obstacles faced by bureaucracy, which is organization built around the hierarchies, alternatives against autonomous groups, large bureaucracies will not wiggle away their own, skip the next card. Third is circumvent practice nuclear power sequence. India shows that a ban literally does nothing. Leading 15. Only after construction can clear the space behind a complex nuclear centrifuges to expand the governance of good research. The city emerges, governance a little. It is not only international inspections. Finding information about reacts not easy. Details are always sketchy. Fourth, the mission takes decades and access under impacts. The app is too long to ever slightly solvency. Like 15. High level radiation complex and costly. The ignition flow process which takes place in stages. Plans have figured time frame on average. As of March 2012, appropriation plans to operate. No long time is actually going to take. Now, the solvency. First turn, AC fails to get cultural shift to the top, then legislative action fails to spill up. It's roots of solvency when you advance to the top down. People never know what to follow because they wouldn't want to follow state action. So the legislative action slide needs a bottom of previous system, which means they can actually solve second renewable energies or a way to hide the blinds of the system itself. B1AC is a palliative, which makes it impossible to actually change the system. Bellamy and Thomas, too. Energy not place labor as a commodity of the capital system. In a state where approaching crises, energy becomes a kind of stopgap solution capitalistic. The sales states worker exploitation. Since rights sectors make every unreal energy front threaten to obscure energy transition that has become apparatus structures like at every level. Third, they have no solvency. The card literally says nothing. It only says that nuclear power is bad, but no reason why prohibition works. They didn't read the dirty part of the card. They don't have solvency.
So I skipped the McCarthy card in the doc, and Swift and the second Martin card in the case page. Everything else is.
Second Martin card.
Yes, that. And then skipped Swift. And then I skipped Kathy. Swift. Kathy right there. Sorry. Okay, yeah.
All right. Ready?
Yeah.
The first NC, your argument is that states will be able to govern themselves. What's the impact? Why?
Sure, the argument is this is a cosmopolitanism theory, which says that where you're born is morally arbitrary. So, like, your social location doesn't really matter based on that. So we should analyze, make sure we have global institutions to be respectable. So Pogge 1 establishes states are interconnected, so they're part of all global institutions. So what happens to one state matters to others. Then Pogge 2 establishes the next part of the internal. That if all states are morally equal, we have an obligation to draw attention to
what is the impact of the Drayton evidence?
Oh, sure. This is the contention level offense that shows that nuclear power bans that are passed across the board often come from states that are like holding political power. Like, let's face it, countries in Africa aren't going to be like, let's ban nuclear power. It's often a top-down action from the rich states. They want to police the poor states, which is not sovereignty. The second link then was
what's the impact of denial of sovereignty?
Well, that's the standard preserving access to sovereignty.
All right.
Also, like the framework justifies sovereignty matters. Like all states are
what are
equal,
all of
like
the warrants for why sovereignty is relevant consideration?
Like I said, I can walk you through cosmopolitanism like that after theory.
I'm curious as to the warrants in these like 2-sentence cards.
No, they're warranted.
So I'm curious as to what those warrants.
Okay, sure. Pogge 2 establishes why sovereignty matters in the context of like if all states are equal, we should aim to rectify inequalities. So like for example, if all states are equal, it doesn't make sense to give only the West power and not like the developers.
All right. The second argument is about nuclear power being good for like developing nations. If I win, the nuclear power is bad. Does this turn the NC?
No, the NC like overarching claims like that are not the answer. The NC is very specific. The first argument is like principle. So even if like you win that like nuclear power is like bad for these countries, Driessen would say if you still can't limit it, that's like imperialism. Just slow down. The second one, Chowdhury, is more material.
Okay, sure. Status the alternative.
Dispositional.
What are the conditions?
If you read defense 2, I don't have to go for it. Like every other argument. If you read impact defense 2, just said I don't have to go for it.
All right. The first argument is about renewables being capitalist. Why are they worse than nuclear
nuclear power?
Sure, this is very specific. The nuclear industry, the renewable energy industry is still in the grassroots stage right now. So if we start building it up, it enables another facet of capital suppression to spring up. Like this evidence is just fantastic. The turn to wind, solar, and water power risk producing inequities that mark the 19th and 20th century, which establishes specifically renewables at that.
The alternative, you give it to people. How does that work?
Oh, sure. The argument then is we should make nuclear power less statist. We should let the workers themselves own the plants and operate them. And so we
So
should
they just own and operate them?
that's part of it. It should be like communities can help own them. It's like it's moving out of the state. And meat safety as well, because like they employ their own experts.
What's the number one that you made above the felony and Thomas after?
Oh, on the solvency page, no cultural. You worsen it. You prevent a cultural shift. On top 10 state action is like Siamese and Bahamas.
I have 105 left. The order will be I'm going to simplify.
Okay.
What's the order?
The order will be, how about, let me just get all this into the file. And,
Yeah, sure. Do I need a new sheet, like new offer then? Just checking.
The order will be the case, the NC, the K, or no, the case, the NC, the disadvocate.
Okay, so the case first. So,
Yeah.
so just this one thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Solvency, the first argument of solvency is the top-down reforms are bad, but you conceded the Martin et al. 2 evidence that indicates that we are a non-reformist reformer, sort of a stance against the status quo policies. The Bellany and Thomas evidence doesn't say that they will hide from nuclear things. Just to see the Bellany and Thomas evidence isn't a reasonable solvency takeout. It simply says that it does not say that it will hide reliance on oil. It simply says it is simply a shift argument that does not have a warrant. But I will answer on the shift is next the light evidence. You said the decommission takes forever, but we do not have a bring it back. We just is irrelevant. We still are able to access some kind of benefit. The levy evidence says they use it secretly, but this is about nuclear research in India, not about nuclear power plants globally. The Martin evidence, the state action fails. We A point this not assume negative state action, which means the act is unique from the regular Martin from the what Martin is describing. The B point is the second part of the article concludes that reforms are possible, which means that the app is in line with what the Martin article says. The 1AC is a stance against the sort of nuclear industry. We are going for the Whitman evidence. It says that the nuclear industry is a drive to colonize other nations, but to resolve. No other industry has this because no other industry requires the kinds of materials like uranium that the nuclear industry does. We see unique advantage to the app that the critique alternative cannot solve. The framework, the Mills evidence. You have said that people are still left out of things based on a sort of broader consensus, but no, the Mills evidence says that understanding the world from the bottom up and not from the top down is key, which means that understanding individual struggle, not a global struggle, is good for this debate round because it is the only way in which you can understand ethics, being that they are subjective. The second argument is that the NC is not ideal, but our argument is not just all ideal theory good, is that individual understandings of theory are good, which the NC does not do because it's based on sort of global concepts of sovereignty. That means that if we were at risk of obviously the case, we are still sufficient for the Mills evidence. The NC, the Mills evidence takes all of it out. It explains that the only way we can understand ethics is from the individual point, not from the sort of state's perspective, which means the NC is irrelevant. The B point is that the NC is not even vaguely justified. Both the Potts evidence do not say the word sovereignty, nor do they make any anywhere near a warranted claim. They're just simply about how states are linked, but that is not justify a normative principle why we shouldn't exercise the power of them. The Woodman evidence is a massive link turn to the 1 and C. You say countries need nuclear power for energy. We say that idea causes huge amounts of suffering within those countries because the nuclear industry just destroys them. The Chaudhry evidence is outweighed by the Whitman evidence because we actively kill people, and there are other ways to get energy. However, there are no other ways to resolve the problem of mining. The Dresden evidence is just about sovereignty, but there's no impact to that. The coal shift is in. First, the only reason there is a coal shift that the Abernathy describing is because people were they awarded the card is about baseload power, but the Wasserman evidence has conceded that it is technologically feasible to have this, and that the only missing link was this battery technology problem, which means that because we've resolved that now, according to Wasserman evidence, there will be no shift, which means there is no problem. Plus, the case outweighs some coal problems. It's just big companies, but it's not the same kind of security apparatus which we describe and criticize. The capitalism critique first, it does not resolve the imperialist problems of the 1AC because it is still the industry still exists. Next, your first felony evidence, renewables are also capitalist. They don't have the capitalists in the same way, that they're not the same drive to colonize other things, which means they are net better. The Martin evidence about state action being bad was answered on the case. The ethical political obligation, it just says capitalism is bad, not because of the prior obligation. The alternative does not solve the case. And permutation, change of union well faces on. Okay, wait. Starting prep. What was the permutation?
Change the reactors to unions in the process of them phasing out. Because phase out isn't immediate. So give it do the alternative and the
So you didn't read the part of the doc?
no.
Okay. I'm reading my two cards. I can say those. What?
That'd be super.
Yeah. So the order is going to be critique with an overview, dissad, and case. And the cards are in the bottom in the column. They're 2 and R. Okay. Oh, I forgot to take the file. Sorry. Okay. Oh, critique with an overview. Sure. Then just add and the case.
Another one is here, just
Oh, sorry. Oh no, the case is on the bottom. Yeah, yeah. Critique, just add the case. Okay. Underneath the cards.
Yep.
So are the judges ready? Cool.
Not going for the NC, you can see their framework, they're getting crushed on the cap K. Is an overview, the K turns the case and outweighs their offense. First outweighs the magnitude, it kills all value to life. They win the half solves things in a vacuum. If people were suffocated by capitalists, no point to living in the first place. That was a concession, strategic and daily. Second outweighs the advent scope, the only solver things in developed countries. People are so subjugated across the entire world by capitalism, which is the impact how they're conceding out of the 1NC now. The line by line, their first answer can't resolve imperialism, but they're conceding reasons why cap causes imperialism. The global drive for people to invade other countries, all based on capital exploitation. So we have a root cause like we want against the as to why they cause more imperialization of the person status quo. Second, it's a question of strength. They blink, they don't reason why they actually resolve it either. So any risk of negative offense is sufficient outweigh their offense. Now, the links. Except the first argument, development, Thomas, the renewables are all rooted in capitalism. This evidence was very specific. It literally says that we focus on renewable energy. We often focus on small industries, which, whether their response made no sense, it's based on capitalistic. But it's a question of strength. Like I show renewables are more capitalistic than nuclear power because they're small industry. We rise them up when they're currently small. They have more room for growth, which is more capitalistic. Then it's the impact of strategic and daily before they cause anonymization, which something is willing to capitalist ideologies, which kills all value of life, means not worth living for in the first place. They say there's no impact to capitalism. This card is an impact that analyzes why neoliberal ideology kills all value to life, which is impacted in terms of their standard of social equality. It means that life's not worth living for. Now, the odds. Making a permutation after time goes off is going to cut it, extend it. King, we should reject it, we should forget, we should have nuclear power, but allows to be done through bottom-up strategies. People can own nuclear power themselves, workers. These permutation change the reactors. One of them is severing out of the immediacy plan because they advocate for a phase out starting immediately. Yes, phase takes place over 10 years, but the app is still passed immediately. Severance is the voting issue. For fairness education, they can shift out of good 1NC arguments, which is a reason to reject the permutation on phase. Secondly, links for all this says they may access nuclear power for like 5 more years. All the arguments says why nuclear power is good, would logically not apply with every phase out. So links are all comparatively just sets. The all resolves the harms out of the app. It ensures we reject the solve for this capitalist ideology. Big picture on the K is this. They messed up. They have no offense in this page. The renewables are more capitalistic, and they try to strive for renewables, which is the reason why the worst of capitalism. The K turns the case. Now the dissat. The framing issue here is the dissat. They've also conceded the dissat. They've also seen the impact how the dissat why it turns the case. So as long as the issue to pull to reason, you should vote negative. Their first answer, the baseload power solves that raw spin at the F shows that there's battery technology, the status quo versus the reason why it's accessible across the globe. Raw spin discusses just rich countries. How could, for example, an African country ever access renewable energies like solar power is obviously impossible. Coal be used instead. Secondly, evidence of being a factual claim only so they should use renewables. Not they actually will. Even renewables better to vacuum countries would still switch to coal instead. We have an empirical claim they conceded which shows that it's overall more likely. Third, even renewables are good to vacuum nuclear power. Is they actually skip that card. Now their second answer. These are the case that ways because these are the case that ways it's form of securitization. First, they consider the reason why coal industry is also highly securitized, and it's a very top-down action. That was the concession in Empory in the 1NC Gished shell, which shows that they also rely on the same industry and the same capital structures that occur anyway. Second, it's a question of strength that assumes they have one solvency for the industries that occur, whereas if I win any risk of no solvency, takes out their argument, which shows the case in that way since it's comparatively worse. Third, the tiebreaker issues, the coal industry is exploited and unsafe. It's crossed pretty terrible working conditions. Clark 14. Coal miners across the globe facing pressure to feed and energy demands with disasters taking place like the Turkish mine explosion. It's killed more than 200 miners. Poor working conditions make coal miners responsible for more deaths than any other industrial sector. The compensation for injuries too low for more affected miners and their families, regulation effectively, market effectively. Now the dissent proper. Extend Abernathy 15, we're going to switch to coal. The status quo is empirically verified across multiple countries. Journalists can't keep up, which outweighs their evidence. It considers multiple empirical situations. They only consider one thing in a vacuum, or to be considered why the overall base load is still not sufficient. The impact outweighs. They conceded MSN and coal through large corporations. They control the entire industry, worsening capital domination. They have dropped both. One is the argument for the dissent turns the case. So if I listen to the trade-off argument, game over. It's the first argument. The dissent turns the case. It creates industries that are just as huge. The hard starts the all say industries are bad. They create new industries, prop them up. Things like gold, for example, or Shell are just as bad as nuclear power, which they ratify entirely. They've also seen a second piece of that weighs the of magnitude. Movements here of the Shadow Coalition, people who are dying right now, couldn't take part in these actions, so the dissent turns the case. Now the app. Even if I lose the dissent or the K, if I win terminal defense, the app is still reason to vote negative. Extend the opening to the contention, and now the contention proper. Extend the opening at the very top, the first argument, they have no solvency. Cross-examination confirms their arguments all say hypothetically the nuclear power is bad, not that advance effective. They mark their one solvency before they get to the part. You should vote negative on presumption. The plan doesn't do anything, and they have an obligation to change the status quo. Otherwise, there's no reason to vote affirmative. They didn't read solvency the 1AC anywhere, and they said they didn't read any solvency the 1AR. This was straight up conceded by the 1AR, which was kind of offense. Then it's the second over with Martin. Their top-down state approach feels about action. This is their own author recut from the later part of his article. He says nuclear power is bad, but bottom-up solution better than state-based actions. He says the plan is a negative state action, but it's clearly not. You still use the state to combat certain actions. It's better to have bottom-up strategies, civil disobedience to ensure we solve, which means the app has no solvency. Now the advantage proper. It's in the first turn, the cultural shift is top-down legislative action, which makes it impossible to ever have a solution to pressure like nuclear power. If it's a cultural phenomenon, like they say it is a top-down action can't solve. They say Martin takes it out, but it obviously doesn't. Martin literally justifies cultural action as well through a bottom strategy. This is the first turn on the advantage. Then it's in the third response as well. They have no warrant for their solvency claims. All they say is that nuclear power is bad, not that advance effective. Another reason to vote negative on presumption the plan doesn't do anything. The ground's really clear. The K is the top-level issue. They have no offense there. Renewables are highly capitalistic. The Bellamy Covenant is very specific. If you don't vote in the K, the dissent turns the case, they cause a shift. They have no peers. Or vote in no solvency. They don't do anything.
And 105 left. On the baseload power, what's the number 2? The number 1 is African countries aren't
Yeah.
the batteries.
The second argument was that even if renewables are better, countries logically wouldn't switch them. Like, countries aren't always acting like perfectly rationally. So the evidence indicates they would use coal, like the link evidence. So, which considers what they actually do, not like hypotheticals.
The order will be the case, the critique, and then the dissent.
Ready? Yes.
The nuclear nuclear industry exploits Africa with uranium mining. It is the only way in which they get all their uranium. Even if we do not read solvency for things like a cultural shift, we still obviously shut down the nuclear industry, which resolve those kinds of things. Plus, the first part of the plan evidence indicates it resolves problems of like material problems, which was conceded out of the 1AR. If you don't get the culture argument, we still get material conditions. Once your arguments are your presumption arguments all rely on this sort of capitalism solvency, but did not consider this kind of colonization solvency, which we are winning, which means there is a clear conceded offense for the app, which can be weighed against everything else. The critique started the weighing to make your argument is that capitalism outweighs because it kills value of life, but you conceded the answer to Zizek and Dallin, which just says that capitalism is bad and harms people, not that you have some prior value to life obligation, which means if the case is also bad, we are able to weigh this and not just against some buzzword. You have conceded that colonization happens globally as opposed to just in the countries that have nuclear power. You've also conceded the alternative is not able to solve this because it still keeps those the industry intact, which they disadd to the alternative. The reason to vote affirmative, you have not won a reason why the alternative is able to solve capitalism globally, simply just capitalism within the industry, but because because colonization in the industry is not based on a capitalist drive, but instead just a need for uranium, is not able to resolve the case. It has no impact. There is not a specific. If you think there is a specific spillover word articulated in the 1NR, then the critique alternative can resolve capitalism. There simply was not, which means the only reason the nuclear industry colonizes is not because of capitalism, like he says, it's because they need uranium. The links to Bethany evidence, you say that renewables are still comparatively more capitalist, but hey, the weighing takes us out. But B point, that does not mean the nuclear industry is not. That is at least massive link defense to your claim. The Martin evidence, you say the state action, but you conceded all of the warrants for negative state action, which means that this does not apply, which means you do not get access to the critique. The dissad, the concession of the warrant, the Wasserman evidence is damning. The only reason they shifted in the past because they don't have this battery technology. Your first answer to this baseload power index is that poor African countries don't have access to these batteries, but they also don't have access to nuclear power. It means it doesn't matter. Your second argument is that countries are not rational, but you also have evidence indicates that nuclear energy is cheaper than, wind energy is cheaper than coal energy, which means even if they aren't acting rationally, they're definitely not acting uneconomically, which means you should which means we're winning a shift to renewables. All of your weighing claims do not matter because you're not accessing the link level, but even so, just in case you conceded that colonization outweighs because the coal industry is only directly harm people near them. For example, it is only the kind of technological problems around them, but the colonization affects more people globally than just the coal industry, which outweighs.